because we just don't have enough information to do it better. By gathering health data from 1 million people, our country's best researchers will be able to develop treatments that are as unique and complex as we are. With this new information, doctors will have a better understanding of disease so they can innovate the next great breakthroughs in medicine. Learn more at joinallofus.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. Eli Clare's new book, Unfurl, comes out on September 16th. He is here with us now. Eli works as a traveling poet, storyteller, and social justice educator, and since 2008, he has spoken, taught, trained, and consulted at well over 150 conferences, community events, and colleges across the United States and Canada. Eli, because of the break, I had to so rudely interrupt you as you were talking about your piece, We Wander the Castro Bewildered, and what that poem is building to at the end there. Do you want to pick it up there?
So as I was saying before the break, I was writing these poems about the early AIDS epidemic during the early COVID pandemic as a way of processing, as a way of just, what is the early pandemic is now history, but here it is, it feels so close. This is another way that time is an accordion here, that the early pandemic doesn't feel like history to me. It feels, and it certainly felt during the early COVID pandemic, like it was right here with me. And this poem particularly was a poem where I was just trying to process the experience of being in the Castro in 1985 when news that Dan White, who was the man who assassinated George Moscone and Harvey Milk, there was a day in the Castro where the news came down that White had died, and White had died by suicide. And the poem is really another layer of processing how complicated that day was. Yeah.
There are so many pieces that I want to talk to you about. We've got about 5 minutes left here, and there was one that was really meaningful to me, which is the turning away from categories. And it's written in 2 sections. And if I can just quote from the first, I'll read the first 2 sentences if that's all right. In disability communities, we talk about the diagnoses that we use to name our bodies or that doctors assign to us, but we're more inclined to pass information about successful access hacks, tell sweet stories about first dates, and exchange pain management strategies. Tell me about this particular piece.
So this connects back to porosity as one of the themes I'm exploring through the book. And so often we're creating categories that are rigid and act if they contain universal truths over a lot of time. Often the categories we create ask the beings that are being categorized to bend to fit the categories rather than vice versa. And so in the book, I'm suggesting that we don't necessarily throw out categories, although I am suggesting that once we get rid of the gender binary, that we shouldn't create another categorization for gender, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of genders. It's way beyond human capacity to categorize genders. But I'm not suggesting that we throw categories out entirely. I'm not even in the PC quote suggesting we throw diagnosis as a categorization system out. Sometimes diagnostic categories are so friggin' important, but I am suggesting that there are places and times in disability community where diagnosis isn't the connective tissue between us.
Mm-hmm. It was such a powerful piece for me, and maybe because we've been talking about time a lot here, maybe we can close with discussing we two-stepping through time, and that was a really I'm gonna sit with that one for a while here. Can you tell us about that one? We two-stepping through time.
We two-stepping through time. So I ask us to envision a time before the whaling ships set sail and the time after the oil wells have run dry. As if both of those exist right now. I ask us to imagine a time before ownership and the time after we've abolished money. So fiercely anti-capitalist, dreaming of the future. But the thing about two-stepping through time is I'm suggesting that all of that exists all at the same time, and we're two-stepping through and with that accordion.
That's why it's one of my favorite pieces in there. The book is Unfurl, comes out on September 16th. We have links for you to pre-order or order your copy, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this. You can head to our website or click on the link in the show notes, am950radio.com or heartlandsignal.com. You can also connect with Eli at his website, eliclaire.com. That's CLARE.com. Eli, this has been such a joy. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and your words with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening and or watching today. You can keep the queer going all weekend long. On Saturday afternoon, it's Pride on AM 950, which means you can catch up on the best of The Gaily Show at 2 p.m. Twin Cities Pride Amplified is at 3 p.m. The Legal Trans Woman is at 4 p.m. And the Downright Upright Show with Philip Anthony closes out the afternoon at 5. 4 hours of the most comprehensive national and Minnesota LGBTQ news on the radio. On Sunday at 11 a.m. on WCPT 820, it's Out Chicago. It's Sunday Brunch with your gay best friends, Alan Miller and Scott Duff. Until next week, keep it queer, America.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
He has an overbite that makes him look like a cartoon character, a slightly crooked eye, and an uncommonly wrinkly neck. In the right light, he can look a little like a garden gnome, and he'll wear a bow tie just because. Sure, you might call him a little quirky, but that's exactly what makes him so perfect. Tuna is a 3-year-old Chihuahua Dachshund mix with more than 700,000 followers on Instagram, and it all started because he was adopted. You can't buy a best friend like Tuna, but you can adopt one. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
You are listening to WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk station, where facts matter and truth always wins. Stay informed, stay engaged.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Pentagon officials say 2 Venezuelan fighter jets flew over a U.S. Navy ship in the Caribbean. Earlier this week, President Trump said the U.S. military carried out a strike on a drug-carrying speedboat that had departed from Venezuela. Meanwhile, at a press conference in Ecuador yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has taken a step to boost cooperation with the country in taking on gangs.
Today we have designated as terrorist organizations 2 groups that operate here in Ecuadorian territory. One is Los Lobos and the other is Los Choneros. We've designated them as foreign terrorist organizations, and that brings with it all sorts of options.
And police in Portugal say 11 of the 16 people killed when a streetcar derailed were foreigners. An initial investigative report on what caused the popular Lisbon tourist attraction to crash was also expected to be released. And AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports a veteran Thai politician is likely to be Thailand's next prime minister.
Anutin Charnvirakul has won a vote in the Thai parliament to become prime minister, according to an unofficial running tally broadcast live on television. Anutin, leader of the Bum Chai Thai party, won more than 247 votes, the required majority from the House of Representatives' 492 active members. Anutin would succeed Paetongtarn Shinawatra, who was dismissed by court order as Prime Minister last week after being found guilty of ethics violation over a politically compromising phone call with neighbouring Cambodian Senate President Hun Sen. The dispute erupted into a deadly 5-day armed conflict in July. Anutin's best known for successfully lobbying for the decriminalisation of cannabis. He also played a high-profile role as Health Minister during the COVID-19 pandemic, when he was accused of tardiness in obtaining adequate vaccine supplies to fight the virus. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. The world's top-ranked player has again reached the women's final at the U.S. Open.
Aryna Sabalenka is one win away from defending her U.S. Open title.
Happy to be in another final.
In a rematch of last year's final, the top-seeded Belarusian defeated 4th-seeded American Jessica Pegula 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 in the semifinals Thursday.
I think I really play great tennis, and I think I handled that pressure really well.
Sabalenka is seeking her 4th Grand Slam title. She will face 8th-seeded American Amanda Anisimova in Saturday's final after a 6-7, 7-6, 6-3 victory over Naomi Osaka. Anisimova has yet to win a major and could become the second American in 3 years to claim the women's final in Queens. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
And Caitlin Clark will miss the rest of the Indiana Fever season because of a right groin injury. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-60s. Breezy west winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 40. And then for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low around 47. Saturday, sunshine, high of 67 degrees. Sunday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 68. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 61.
At Straight Talk, we get it. You say no a lot.
Mom, can I get a tarantula?
No.
Coffee?
No.
So we're giving you more reasons to say yes, like a free 5G phone with real unlimited data with select plan activation.
Can I use the free phone?
Yes. See? Doesn't it feel good to say yes to more?
Absolutely. Face tattoo?
Absolutely not. Available at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Taxes and fees apply. In-store activation of Gold Unlimited plan or higher required. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Friday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. It is time to fight. Welcome to the September 5th. Can you believe that? 2025 edition of Choose Views. Not that of Choose Views, but it's September 5th. Wow, 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Give us a holler today. Send us a text, whatever you got to do. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch me on Threads and Substack, LinkedIn and Facebook, Blue Sky, X, and Instagram. We post stuff there, and we try to keep you guys up to speed. And if you want to keep up to speed, definitely catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, and Edwin will be bringing the good stuff to you tomorrow, which is Saturday, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And definitely make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to check out our articles and posts that are there, and quite a bit of information that our team there has accumulated this week. And we know that when I talk about heartlandsignal.com, one of the reasons that I speak so much about them through every show throughout the course of the week is it's just it's their way of making sure that you guys are plugged in and you have extra items to read and things to listen to, things to watch, and certainly things to forward on to your colleagues and people that you want to keep informed, because not everybody gets up this early in the morning to listen to a radio show. I get that. A lot of people have to catch it later. And if you're in a different time zone, meaning you're in a mountain or Pacific time zone, or if you're in Hawaii, you might getting up that early is not necessarily your cup of tea. But for others, it is. Either way, no matter where you are, you can go to heartlandsignal.com and pull up our stuff, and that stuff gives you the ability to say, hey, we're all in, guys. We're going to do what we got to do. We're going to send you information. We're going to keep you posted. We're going to keep you plugged in. So make your way over there. You'll see some really great posts that we've got there today. Speaking of today, later today, I will be on Sirius XM on John Fugelsang's show at 8:20 Central Time. So you might want to tune into that. Looking forward to that. And John might be riding with us next week, so we'll keep you posted. But I'll be on Sirius XM on John Fugelsang's show at 8:20 Central Time today. Today's guest it's Friday, and of course we get to hang out with our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast that will be with us in studio. And in the 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock hour, we're going to have a combo platter of Congresswoman Robin Kelly will be with us for a bit early in the hour, and then Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson will be with us as well. So we have a full-on lineup of folks rolling with us down the bumpy road, but we're gonna smooth out some of those bumps, and we smooth it out by fighting, by pulling our shoulders back, keeping our chins up, and fighting. So that's how we're gonna play today, and it'll be fun. I'm I'm quick to say this every day: stay plugged in, stay focused, keep those chins up, and keep those shoulders back, because it allows us to be able to fight this fight. Lots of challenges. We know that. We talk about it every day. And my goal is to keep you informed and kind of stout it up with this craziness. But right now, check this out, progressives.
But this is not just about tariffs. Depending on how the court rules, Trump's emergency powers could dramatically shrink or expand.
You're absolutely right. And I would say it absolutely is not about tariffs. This is about Republicans reworking our economy, the foundation of our economy. On one hand, they pass a bill that is yanking benefits, healthcare benefits from Americans. It's yanking food assistance benefits from Americans, the most neediest Americans. And on the other hand, we're passing these taxes regressively. And at the same time, we're expanding this executive power. And I wish that we could sit here and have a real candid conversation with Republicans who support this and say, listen, we're going to get a Democratic president in here soon. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And once we start doing this, we're going to have an national emergency on climate change. And maybe we'll start putting tariffs on oil. These are the type of things. I don't think that's good for our country. We want to have co-equal branches of government, not so much power resting in the presidency.
That was Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield on Stephanie Ruhl's show on MSNBC. And the part that just kind of caught me in terms of what's happening is when he says, when AG Rayfield says the Republicans are reworking the economy. Well, they're not reworking the economy to the benefit of the people that they said they were working it for. That's the hypocrisy. And I was talking with a couple of people yesterday after the show, and that's the hypocrisy. They are reworking the economy and reworking so many parts of our society, not for the benefit of the greater number of people. You cannot tell me that 77 to 78 million people want to see the cost of their goods and services go up. The Republicans promised that they were going to drive them down. And the leading voice of that was Donald Trump. And they haven't done that. And it's not going to happen. You can't, and we're going to talk about today in this first hour, we're going to talk about a handful of things that are current events and top stories, two of which are going to be this situation where the tariff fight is headed to the Supreme Court. And, yesterday when we had Professor Littman on, we didn't get to that, but she's going to be back. But the tariff fight is headed to the Supreme Court. They took the fight to the Supreme Court, asking the justices to rule quickly that the president has the power to impose sweeping import taxes under federal law. And so here's the thing. This is what's interesting. If you guys caught this with regard to the Supreme Court conversation with Professor Littman, if he had the power, just think about this for a second, he would be able to do it without restriction. He has to be granted the power through the Supreme, if it goes to the Supreme Court. He has to be granted that power. They have to say yes, which means that right now he doesn't have the power. That's the interesting thing about this, guys. And I know it's a very not in the weeds is not the words I'm looking for when I was thinking about this last night. It's a very nuanced. You've got to really think about that. If he had the power, then he wouldn't have to ask the Supreme Court to take the case to essentially grant him the power. And this is what I was saying with Professor Littman yesterday, and why I wanted to kind of start in this space this morning. A lot of what the regime is doing and what Donald Trump is doing with these executive orders are not things that he inherently, as Stephen Miller would like you to think, has the power to do. If you do, you don't need to ask. How many times? So this is a comparison. How many times? Name me the things that Joe Biden ran up the flagpole to get the Supreme Court to say, please say yes to me. Please say yes to me. I mean, think about that, y'all. Just think about that. There may have been some, okay, granted. But was it everyday news, Henry? It wasn't everyday news. The biggest one that comes to mind for me, and it wasn't one that he took to the Supreme Court, it was the executive power to fade out college student loan debt. And then it got pushed back on by who? Republicans in Congress. And a bunch of loudmouth, whiny little school. I got to stop using that. That's not fair. It's a bunch of loudmouth, whiny adults, actually. Let's just call it what it is. That said, no, we don't want this. When in fact, a stupid move by the Republicans, because more money in the economy, if people aren't having to pay the loans back or can get some relief, is better for the economy. But these knuckleheads are too damn stupid to realize that. When you think about it economically, me as an advisor, I know the numbers on that. But how many times did President Biden run to the Supreme Court and say, would y'all please say it's okay for me to do this thing? No, he got it done. Now, Donald Trump's got to whine to the Supreme Court, please approve what I'm saying or what I'm trying to do through executive orders. So this is where I go back to Donald Trump clearly does not know what he's doing in the sense, in terms of he has the power to do it. He thinks he has the power to do it. And then he does it and then hopes that somebody will come behind him and clean up his mess. And that's what the Supreme Court has been doing. They've been cleaning up his mess. So there you go, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. On March 25th, 1911, in Manhattan, a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory killed 146 workers, who were mostly women. The victims of the fire were unable to leave the burning high-rise building due to the exits being locked and were forced to leap to their deaths from the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. Locking doors was a common practice to reduce theft and unauthorized breaks at workplaces. As a result of the fire, the New York State Legislature formed the Factory Investigating Commission, whose findings led to 38 new laws regulating labor. Some of the new laws mandated better egress, the installation of better alarm and sprinkler systems, and increased availability of fire extinguishers. Coincidentally, the American Society of Safety Professionals was formed, which now manages, researches, and consults occupational safety and health across 75 countries. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We are working for your rights.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, progressives, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278 is the number. That's what the Supreme Court is doing. They're cleaning up the mess behind Donald Trump. That doesn't, if he had the power. I mean, guys, just think about that. If he actually had the power, then it wouldn't be a question that had to go to the Supreme Court. You know, and I think that's one of the big conversation pieces about, you know, there's no continuity, there's no planning. It's just chaos. And so, you know, it was really it's been really interesting to watch that that the Supreme Court comes behind and it has to clean up behind, which is not a real pleasant thing to have to think about in the first place. I'm not going to address this. I got a text from someone, and they said something that's patently false, but I'll leave it alone because, once again, I really do. I look at certain things and go, some people just don't really pay attention to what actually is happening, and as a result, they say some things that, you know, don't make any sense. So we'll just deal with that. All right, it's Friday, and we've got a few Choose Views news items to share with you this morning and a few other things to talk about. So let's give them a few items to be aware of today on this September 5th, 2025. Why massive mergers are unwinding. The buzzwords that accompanied corporate mega mergers, synergy, efficiency, economies of scale, have been replaced by a different sentiment, which is disappointment. Frustrated investors have driven a series of high-profile breakups. Wall Street Journal reports from the Warner Brothers Disney to the Keurig Dr. Pepper and most recently Kraft Heinz. More conglomerates are splitting into their component parts. In some cases, the merger didn't provide the anticipated cost reductions. In other words, underperforming segments served as a drag. The result is a 23% increase year over year in deal activity. So the thing that's interesting there is that anticipated cost reduction oftentimes means firing people. So I'm not always upset when mergers don't go through. I talk about them, but when they don't go through and people don't lose their jobs because of the fact that they're going to cut those positions, I'm sometimes okay with that. I don't want to see the people lose jobs because of a merger. All right, signs of slower hiring is beginning to pile up. Hiring by U.S.-based companies fell by half this past August, more than expected amid the accumulating signs that the labor market has softened. Private employers added 54,000 payrolls, according to ADP. Companies also plan to hire the fewest employees for the month of August since 2009, a total of 1,494, according to outplacement firm Challenger Christmas & Gray. Layoffs jumped to 85,980, the most in August since 2020. New jobless claims, meanwhile, hit their highest level last week since June. The U.S. released its non-farm payroll numbers today. Spirit is cutting service to 12 U.S. cities. Once Friendly Skies airline has become increasingly cutthroat. On the heels of its second bankruptcy filing, Spirit Airlines said it will terminate service in 12 U.S. cities starting next month as rival carriers actively court the struggling company's customers. So pay attention to that, guys, if you do fly on Spirit. Citing the possibility that Spirit's demise, United Airlines on Thursday put on sale new flights in cities where Spirit still operates. Last week, meanwhile, Frontier Airlines, Spirit's closest competitor in the budget space, announced 20 new routes that overlap with Spirit markets. McDonald's is taking issue with tips. Found this one really interesting. They have withdrawn from an influential restaurant trade group because it doesn't believe sit-down competitors should be able to court tips towards the minimum wage. Interesting. Right now, quote, there's an uneven playing field, according to McDonald's CEO Chris Kempetsky. At issue are state laws that allow casual dining establishments like McDonald's competitors Chili's to pay tipped workers below minimum wage. McDonald's withdrew from the National Restaurant Association in protest, according to Bloomberg, citing an analyst note arguing that rivals can subsidize labor costs with tips, which McDonald's workers don't accept. That is going to be an interesting conversation. And last but not least, Harvard's $2 billion freeze ruled illegal. In a major legal victory for Harvard University, a judge ruled that the Trump administration broke the law when it froze more than $2 billion in federal research funding. Now, we probably can expect that would go to a higher court, but while the decision is subject to appeal, it is a rebuke of the government's efforts to, quote, remake elite higher education and strengthen Harvard's position in settlement talks, according to the New York Times. The Justice Department lawyers had argued the freeze was an appropriate response to Harvard's handling of campus anti-Semitism, which is complete and utter BS. Just is. So I'm glad for the win at this point for Harvard, because they fully deserve that. And, listen, Donald, stay in the administration at large, stay out of education. You got a bunch of knuckleheads, So these are the last people. Linda McMahon over the Department of Education. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. And we're going to get to this in a little bit, but with the clip and with some news updates. But RFK, boy, oh boy. Excuse me, guys. If anybody saw any of the that hearing, man, oh man, we'll have a clip or two that we're going to play in the 6:30 hour. But the one thing I want to say about, we'll wait till the 6:30 hour to bring that to you correctly. Let's give some folks that are in Chicago some updates on things to do this weekend if you're hanging out in the good old Windy City. It's a busy weekend, even though we're post Labor Day. You can find major festivals all around. One of them is the 40th Annual Printers Row Festival and the Renegade Craft Fair, Taste of Chicago in Grant Park. So, yeah, we've got Printers Row Lit Fest is taking place in Printers Row. The Renegade Craft Art Fair is taking place as well, along with the Taste of Chicago and the 79th Street Renaissance Festival and the Black and Bronze Music Fest. All of these are things that start today or tomorrow and run through Sunday. So make your way out to any of those fests. Some great things to do if you're into music, if you're into art and other things of that nature, then get out and enjoy it, because Chicago definitely brings those great events. The Chicago Pizza Pass is still happening. That's one that you can check out, and you can just Google that information, and it'll give you all the data. The Franz West is Millennium Park monumental installations by West. That's happening there. Let's see. The Dungeons and Dragons, a 20-sided tavern, direct from New York City. The tavern returns to Chicago with an all-new production. Yeah, I thought it was about drinking. No, the performance is taking place at the Broadway Playhouse at Water Tower Place. You can make your way there. And the Messi Experience. The Messi Experience is an immersive and interactive multimedia exhibition inspired by the life and career of Lionel Messi. That's going to be taking place starting today at 2367 West Logan Boulevard. Something else for you guys to check out if you're out and about. And getting back to music is the Edgewater Music Fest starting today up on Chicago's northeast side of the lake, by the lake. So make your way out and about, guys. Lots of things to do this weekend, whether it's going to hold up if you're here in Chicago, so check it out. And if you're in other places, if you're in any of our big cities, get out and about. Google, ask what things to do. If you're in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Birmingham, Alabama, wherever you are, don't stay stuck in the house. Get out and about if you can. If you physically can't get out and about, then go open the back door and sit or stand in the doorway. But get yourself some fresh air in those lungs. I'm a big advocate of that. So wherever you are, please make it your thing to get out and about as best you can. All right, guys, there you go. We will be taking, even though we're busy, we'll be taking your calls as we can. So dial that number, and we'll try to get you on today. And we're looking forward to our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast hanging with us today. I'm sure she's going to have a lot to say about some of the things that are going on right now. But I want to circle back to something that I said earlier about this whole issue with Trump and the Supreme Court. We were so fortunate yesterday to have with us Professor Leah Littman talking about the craziness of the Supreme Court and the amount of power that they're giving themselves. And it's amazing that folks, get distracted and don't pay attention to this. But I want you to be mindful of it. Follow what she's doing. Maybe grab a copy of her book. We're going to be giving away some copies next week with a little contest here and there. But the Supreme Court is really cleaning up after Donald Trump. I know there are people out there that want to say that Joe Biden, didn't follow the rules of the Supreme Court. Not true. What he did, this is the difference. Joe Biden did not go to the Supreme Court and say, please approve me. I didn't say that Joe Biden didn't have to deal with the Supreme Court because they blocked certain things. I never said that. In fact, I said that there were things that people brought and said that Joe Biden shouldn't be able to do, and the Supreme Court said yay or nay. But he didn't run to the Supreme Court, to my recollection, and even if he did, this is the part where people just crack me up sometimes, Henry. And whether I'm talking to people face-to-face, online, text messages, emails, whatever, calls, pay attention. What we said is that wasn't the flavor of the day with Joe Biden. We didn't say that there were zero interactions. And this is what cracks me up, by people who call themselves smart, who want to be the ones that are the provocateurs, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't care where it comes from. I've seen it on different shows other than mine. I've seen it on different broadcasts here on WCPT. I've seen it on MSNBC. I've seen it on CNN. Pay attention. We don't get it right all the time, but there's the one thing that's for sure. A lot of people out there don't pay attention to what's actually being said. Joe Biden did not have to have the Supreme Court be his cleanup crew. He had interactions with them, but it wasn't the flavor of the day. And with Donald Trump, it is. Let me go run to the Supreme Court. If I don't get what I want, I'm going to run to the Supreme Court. Now, how does that tie into the broader conversation around voting? If people had showed up, I got some data yesterday that I'm going to sort of pull together and mash through over the weekend and present it to you guys next week on voting and numbers. But just think about it like this, guys. For those who say that their vote doesn't matter, now you're seeing the Supreme Court is making it matter, because in some cases they want to be able to give Trump the ability to take it away by doing what? The redistricting and the gerrymandering. Okay? So don't tell me it doesn't matter. And cleaning up for him when it comes to this whole conversation around tariffs. So here we are once again. Get out and vote. Be active, folks, at your local level. So everything that's local is national. Everything that's national is local. We're going to take another break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Whether it's day or night, hot flashes due to menopause can be unpredictable. That's why there's Veoza, a prescription treatment proven to reduce the number and severity of hot flashes day and night that can start working in as early as 1 week. Based on clinical studies measuring efficacy at 4 and 12 weeks, individual results may vary. Talk to your healthcare provider about what this may mean for you. For moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms or hot flashes and night sweats due to menopause, Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com. Paid for by Stellus Pharma.
You are listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-60s. Breezy west winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 40. And then for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low around 47. Saturday, sunshine, high of 67 degrees. Sunday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 68. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 61.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, we are back. Let's chew on this. So, today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Professor William Muck will be here for Joan Esposito. He'll be talking to Thomas Countryman, former acting Undersecretary of State of Arms Control and National Security, Suzanne Scheid, professor of political science at North Central College, Barbara McQuaid, legal analyst, and author of Attack from Within. Very busy show. Kathleen Santz, president and CEO of Gun Violence Prevention PAC. Plus, he'll be giving away tickets to the Northlight Theater's production that opened last night at the North Center Theater for Performing Arts. Patty Vasquez to Driving It Home. Dan Schaefer will be in for Patty today. And next week on the show, we'll be talking with Rich Loges, leaving MAGA, North Carolina Democratic Party Chair Anderson Clayton, comedian, of course, and author John Fugelsang, and historian Michelle Duster will be with us. We are happy to have Credo Mobile as our phone and text line sponsor, 773-763-9278, as you guys know. But what's really cool right now is WCPT listeners get a 25% off or discount for 2 years at Credo Mobile with the code WCPT25. That's Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that's better for all and all people in the planet. Visit credomobile.com. So, I want to get right into this. I've been just like chomping at the bit, which is probably why I stumbled over my words a moment ago. I've got to be patient. So yesterday, the survivors, and I've been very careful to not use the V word, victim. They were victimized, but they're survivors today of this horrible, horrible, horrible Epstein just universe. Had a chance to speak, and you guys have all heard different things about it. You've heard, the flyovers that Trump said it was for something else, and then, that being said, what I want to speak to is this: let's embrace the survivors as best we can, as we would with anyone that's been through a tragedy, as best we possibly can. We may not know them, but we can send them all the good vibe and good love and support that we can muster up. But I want to speak to something that I touched on yesterday, and you guys saw the clip now of Nancy Mace scurrying out of the briefing with the Epstein survivors in tears, etc. And I'm just not having it. And many of her critics aren't either. And, part of my challenge with this, as well as my challenge with Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her grabbing the mic and trying to, speak about this situation, part of my issue with this, and I'm doing my best to be as sensible and sensitive as I can. I'm a guy, and I'm not trying to pretend that I know what it's like to be a woman that's been assaulted, or that's a survivor in this case. I don't share a lot of personal information, but I understand it from family and people that I've talked to and know in my life. And this is an incredibly difficult and tough situation, beyond what many of us could even imagine. And I'm sure there are those of you out there that, like me, may have had things where you were approached by someone. It happened to me when I was in grade school, in 8th grade. And I won't go into the details, but it happened to me. And I went through the same process of, do I say something? Who do I say it to? Because I knew that if I told my mother and father, Henry, they would have burned the school down. Because it was a teacher that approached me in the boys' room in 8th grade. Yeah. I mean, I don't make light of it, but my point is, I have a little bit of understanding from personal experience that it can happen to any of us at any time. And, we all know someone that has been put in a situation where they were made to feel uncomfortable, et cetera. They are a survivor of that victimization. But when I see the Republicans who now want to suddenly, and other than maybe Thomas Massey, because he's, voicing with Ro Khanna, but when I see what Nancy Mace did, and when I see what Marjorie Taylor Greene did, particularly Marjorie Taylor Greene, they don't get any medals. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not get a medal, y'all, for suddenly now wanting to vote for the release of no, because this is the same woman, as is Nancy Mace, that voted to support the guy that's done or been a part of this in some way, and is now orchestrating and has been the blocking of the release of the Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the same woman, the same person that has been full of just nastiness and trash talking black women and all these other things that have been poor representations from my eyes that she should provide for other women that are in the fight with her. I could go on and on about how I feel about her, but the Republicans, I'm just going to keep this as, top of line as I can. We have a clip that we're going to play to this, but the Republicans don't get any medals for now stepping to the mic when we've been begging, screaming for this for months, for a long, long, long time. And they haven't done a darn thing other than provide cover for Donald Trump. So they don't get a medal now that things are releasing and that the survivors are speaking. They can all go, can have a Thelma and Louise moment in a big old bus. Okay? Where were you when we were begging you to be there for the folks who've been, not just in this case with Epstein, but in other cases where women have been sexually abused? They're still defending Donald Trump on E. Jean Carroll. Right? See? Henry even was like, oh, my God, that's right. So don't come to me with this, oh, we're behind every. No, because you all could have been there a long time ago. So we've got a clip that is spoken better than me from one of our congressional leaders.
Asking us, you're asking the oversight Dems, where our leadership pushed a vote to crack this thing open. You're asking us to do the right thing. We're here. We're the ones who stepped to those survivors after and thanked them and asked them if they were safe tonight. Behind you are folks who probably have close to 80 years of working with victims of sex trafficking. of ensuring that girls and young women have a space in the justice system to tell their stories. The oversight Dems, we're here. We're here. When you don't have the House and you don't have the Senate, we're pushing and using every tool that we have. And why this is important, it is about Epstein, it's about these survivors, but moreover, it is about an administration that refuses to tell the truth, that refuses to protect young girls. It is about an administration that wants you to look away. Well, we heard girls today who are in their 30s who talked about being raped when they were 14. We heard a young girl talk about being told that she would be able to pay for her mother's cancer treatment if she just cooperated. And we're talking about folks in this building and at the highest levels of government potentially being implicated. You ask the Republicans the same question.
That is representative from from California's 12th, I believe it's 12th district, congressional district, Latifah Simon. That's how I feel, and she articulates it far better, with better music in the background. But that's how I feel, and the credit to that goes to 92% News, because we've been begging for a long time for Republicans, the GOP, on all levels to step up. But for some reason, they're afraid of Donald Trump. Maybe they're afraid of what's in the files, and the list goes on. But doggone it, and listen, progressive voices on any level, whether you're an elected official, whether you are someone that runs an organization, or if you are someone that has a show, do not give any of them credit for doing the right thing now. They don't get a medal for that. They should have been there months ago. So be careful. All of us that have a voice, don't lean into this. I'm okay with, I'm happy to see someone. That's to me, that's yielding space. That's giving them credit for something that, first of all, they should have been doing all along. But then it's saying that we're going to look past so many other things that you've done wrong or gotten wrong if you vote right on this. That's a fool's game, progressives. No, we have to be calling them out 24/7 on that. We don't want to give them the space to vote correctly on this. And then all these other things that have been harmful to women. Medical coverage, just on the list goes on. Reproductive care for women, but suddenly no, I'm not hearing it. We got another clip we're going to hit you with before we go to a break. I know we've got some calls coming in. We'll get to the calls, guys, so be with us. But we got another clip from Representative Jared Moskowitz.
Have you heard about the Epstein thing that's going on here?
I have.
You have? What do you think about it?
I'm not going to give comment on anything happening in America. I'm here as a witness.
Perfect.
I'm here as a witness. I'm here as a witness for what is happening in the United Kingdom and in the European.
Perfect. Let me just go through it. So it's been 9 months, right, since we've been meeting in these hearings. We've not had Pam Bondi here, even though we have jurisdiction over the Department of Justice. Not Dan Bundy. The gentleman yield. Nat Cash Patel. I will 100%. We'll go back and forth. Let me just do my thing.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to correct. Cash Patel's coming in I'll give you an extra 10 seconds. Cash Patel, the director of FBI, is coming in 2 weeks, and the Attorney General's coming in 4 weeks.
Fantastic. But still, we're not doing that this week. The week we're having votes on the Epstein thing. So, Pam Bondi gives the influencers, these Republican influencers, a binder. It says Part 1 of the Epstein files. No one ever saw it. It was quite spectacular. The Attorney General then says the Epstein list is on her desk. Then DOJ issues a memo, says there is no list. Then, you have any questions about any of that? We've had no hearings on any of that at all. That, the list is on my desk, then there is no list. Then we gave binders to Republican influencers. This committee's had no questions on any of how that transpired at the Department of Justice. Then hold on.
Well, it sounds like you're going to in the next few weeks.
Oh,
Mr.
Farage, we can talk soon, but not yet. Okay. Right. So then the president comes out and says the whole thing's a hoax. He blasts his own base. He blames Barack Obama. I mean, he hasn't been president for a very long time. Republicans then in committee vote against the release in the Rules Committee. Then Republicans refuse to go back in the Rules Committee because they're getting blasted for their vote, getting crushed by their own base. Congress leaves a day early. Then the administration sends the Deputy Attorney General to meet with Maxwell in jail. He happens to be Trump's former personal attorney. She says something favorable about the president. Miraculously, she gets transferred to a minimum security prison. The president starts talking about how he has the right to pardon her if he wanted to. The leaks to the Wall Street Journal then stop. We come back from break. We have the Massey petition. Comer does a document dump where 97% of these documents are already public. How long has he had those documents? Why hasn't he released them for the last 6 weeks? Does it the day of the vote. Then Republicans drop a non-binding resolution trying to kill the Massey discharge petition. The White House said passing the Massey discharge petition is a hostile act. Wow. That's a lot of distraction and deflection and misinformation. Wait, passing a discharge petition to release the...
So the point of all of that, and Representative Moskowitz is not to be messed with. He comes to the fight ready all the time. If a knife doesn't work, he'll pull out, something else. If that doesn't work, he'll pull out something else. My point again, and we're going to go to break, is that the Dems, any of our voices, do not give the Republicans any space on this, because they are the ones that are blocking and have blocked so many other things of Trump's misdeeds and bad doings. So just because they decide to step to the mic or run out of a meeting in tears, they don't get any favor. We should not give them any favor or space. So when we come back, we're going to take a couple quick calls. But right now, you're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
Thank God former U.S. Attorney Glenn Kirshner is here.
Listen, we've gone from government of the people, by the people, and for the people to government against the people. That's where we are right now. In all things Donald Trump is doing, he's trying to hurt the American people, right? And, the power that because look, no judge is going to save us. No prosecutor is going to save us. No politician is going to save us. If the Dems could have saved us, they would have done so already, right? They can't save us. It's up to us. And that's why I'm talking about how we have to wield our power. And we've got to get out there, far more frequently in the streets in far bigger numbers peacefully, because we're the only ones who have the power to stop government against the people.
Keep listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Let's grab a quick call. Let's go to Pam. Good morning, Pam. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. Richard, thank you for sharing your experience about what almost happened or what occurred, because I've had a similar experience. Sexual predators are everywhere, preying on our children. When you think about it, child pornography is a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yep, it is.
And you know who fuels it. So let's just be clear about how we like to protect our children. So really quickly, I want to make sure we get the language right. What Trump and the Republicans that adjudicated sexual abuse is doing, it's the racial gerrymandering that he's doing. He's very specific and targeted in that. And lastly, Richard, I like to call representatives. I like to get answers when I can, and I like to leave. My true opinion. So I called Representative Massey for the very reason that he was, I feel like a Johnny-come-lately. So I had a chance to talk to his staffer. So I spoke to his staffer. I said, on this position, Massey should have come forward a long time ago. And then I said to have Marjorie Taylor Greene there, I said that was an insult to many of the women and also to me. So the staffer said, get this, Richard, well, do you know she really took a chance coming out because she's received so many threats from the Republican Party, her own party. I said, are you kidding me? Do you know about the threats that the people who are trying to do the right thing get from MAGA on a daily basis? Have you paid attention to the judges? Anyone? But Richard, this is where the mindset is. And then I called Representative Connor because I wanted to thank him, but I said, I'm not looking for you to push this bipartisan crap. They could have done this a long time ago.
Thank you, Pam.
It's the right thing today. It's the right thing today, Richard, but it'll be the wrong thing tomorrow. So I told him it was an insult to help Marjorie Taylor Greene because I'm a black woman, and I know the racist things that she said about another black woman, your colleague, Representative Crockett.
Yep.
And so last time I'm going to say this, I'm asking everyone to listen to the full press conference because I heard some things I had never heard before. You'll never hear reported on the news. They said thousands of victims, international, and victims who don't have the freedom as American women do to come forward and testify. And keep in mind these 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget that.
I know, Pam. I'm so. Listen, when I saw, I have to just pause my brain on this one because of the size of it, if you will, and to your point, so well stated that we if you're gonna be in the fight, be in the fight, but to show up now that we've broken down the wall or we've chipped away at the wall and now you want to help when we were begging you before with and having and they haven't the information to see what was going on but blocked it for their own political preservation. No, I'm sorry if you don't have the guts to be there, this is then leave. And I put the same kind of thing on any of the Republicans that have stood in the way. And I go back to the two of the named senators, Collins and Murkowski. Then leave if you're scared. And Marjorie, people saying Marjorie Taylor Greene's, then go, leave. Sean Harris will do a better job.
I agree. And then, Rich, and I'm going to simply say this. When you decide to stand up for what's right, you do that all the time. You don't cherry pick when you're going to do it. You stand up for right all of the time. And this is a mass big cover-up for the wealthy sexual predators who preyed on these little girls.
Yep, that's right. Pam, listen, thank you for the call this morning. Appreciate you as always, and have a good weekend, okay?
Appreciate you, too.
All right.
Same to you.
Bye-bye. Let's quickly go to John in L.A. John, good morning. Thanks for the call. What's going on?
What's going on? Yeah. It's just my imagination.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. No, the loyalty oath that these goppers signed when they took office to Donald Trump, do you know what that looks like? How it read?
I don't, but I know that it must be pretty. Well, I don't. To simply answer your question, I have no idea.
Well, I hope that Alcatraz Island in San Francisco is large enough to hold all of them, including Pam Bondage and Donald Trump, and they can have lollipops to the two girls next to Donald Trump so he can relive his old days with Jeffrey Epstein. Like all the look, that Epstein thing is endemic. It's representative of what's wrong with this country and why it was never a democracy for the last 250 years.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. John, thank you so much for the call.
You talk about who built the White House, who built Epstein.
Yeah.
It's a lot of skeletons in this beautiful closet.
Right on. John, thanks for the call, man. We got to bounce to another one. Thanks for your contribution this morning. Stay safe. Wow. So listen, as we get to the top of the hour, we've got a lot going on, so I don't want run over ourselves. With Congresswoman Robin Kelly will be with us after the break, and then Mayor Johnson will be with us after that. And Karen Byrne will be with us here in studio, so we got a busy morning. Listen, guys, it's Pam said it best. Where were you when we needed you the most? Months ago, as Representative Simon said, and Representative Moskowitz said, this is a situation where the Republicans knew what time of day it was. They just chose to not pay attention to the clock. They just did. They have there's no place for them right now in terms of voice, unless they're going to say something like, we got it wrong, we were wrong. Like I said, what did I say earlier in the week? MAGA, admit you were wrong. GOP, admit you, and non-voters, admit you were wrong. It will be good for your soul. I'm not trying to play therapist here. Admit you were wrong. I mean, listen, those who run around in any configuration, but particularly those that are part of MAGA, GOP, and the right in general, and I'm making a big, broad brushstroke here. If you are those who follow this sort of Christian ethos in your mind, that you're a good Christian because of blah, 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 one of the things that I always remember, and this is not just to Christianity, this is to any faith. One of the key elements of that is to acknowledge your imperfection. When you're wrong, admit you're wrong. My cleanup on aisle 7 is broad because I got to clean up pretty much every day in one way or another. And I appreciate you guys for reminding me of that. But as a grown man, if I make a mistake, I got to say I made a mistake. MAGA, and I get it. Some people are going to say, Richard, they're in a cult. They're not there. I understand all that. The racism, the sex. Listen, I speak to that. But MAGA, you were wrong. And so Dems, when we look at MAGA, we look at GOP, we look at that whole group, we don't get to, they don't get a pass with us. We can't do that. We cannot say, well, okay. No. They need to step up and do the right thing beyond just the show of it, beyond the Nancy Mace walking out of the hearing crying. No. When you were asked on, I forgot the show now, I think it was George Stephanopoulos that asked her, how could she support, as a survivor, a victimized person and a survivor of sexual assault, how could you then vote for and support Donald Trump? And she tried to turn it on George and say, how dare you? And she went down that Nancy Mace path. How do you go from that to tears of hearing the women that he assaulted? You know what I'm saying? Or that Epstein, the whole process. How do you go from one to the other? Because it's theater. Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's theater. Many of the Republicans, it's theater, y'all. So progressive liberal Democrats, I'm sorry. The Republicans, the GOP, MAGA they do not get any space here. It's not deserved. It's not warranted. Hold the line. Let's take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Allstate's new home insurance is now better than ever. We're making getting the right home insurance that's right for you super easy with our improved online quoting tool. It explains how each coverage option works for you without the headache. Yep, you can start protecting your home in a matter of minutes. So check Allstate first for home insurance that's better than ever. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Coverage subject to terms, qualifications, and availability. Allstate North American Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Save big on your next project right now at Menards. From quick fixes to heavy repairs, our Masterforce industrial-grade mechanics hand tools are designed for maximum strength and durability to get the job done. Save big on the Masterforce 220-piece mechanics tool set. On sale now through September 7th. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for more great deals.
Save big money at Menards.
You've still got it, but your immune system weakens as you age, making it hard to fight the flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Sponsored by Pfizer.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The Trump administration has already denied visas for a Palestinian leader and his delegation to attend a high-level UN meeting this month. Now it's considering ramping up restrictions on several other delegations that would limit their ability to travel outside New York City. The movements of Iranian diplomats are already severely limited in New York, and the administration is considering a proposal that would ban Iranian diplomats from shopping at wholesale stores like Costco and Sam's Club without State Department permission. These stores are a favorite of Iranian diplomats because they're able to buy large quantities of products not available in their country for relatively cheap prices and send them home. And the United Kingdom's Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner resigned today after an inquiry found she did not meet the ethical standards over a recent home purchase. Earlier this week, she admitted that she did not pay enough tax on the apartment. The report found she acted in good faith, but should have sought more specific tax advice. And in Russia, President Vladimir Putin says foreign troops deployed to Ukraine could be in the line of fire.
President Vladimir Putin spoke at a forum in Vladivostok, Russia, just hours after European leaders again pledged their commitment to a potential peacekeeping force in Ukraine. Putin says any foreign troops deployed to Ukraine before a peace agreement is signed would be considered a legitimate target by Russian forces. Putin also dismissed the idea of peacekeeping forces in Ukraine after a final peace deal, saying no one should doubt that Moscow would comply with a treaty to halt its 3.5-year military operation in neighbouring Ukraine. He adds that security guarantees will be needed for both Russia and Ukraine. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
World shares rose today, and an update on the U.S. job market later today could clear the way for cuts to interest rates. This is AP News. An injury has ended the second pro season of the top star in women's basketball. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
Caitlin Clark will miss the rest of the Indiana Fever season because of a right groin injury. Clark on Thursday shared a statement on social media saying, quote, "I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season." Clark added, quote, "Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling." She was injured late in a July 15th game against the Connecticut Sun and later sustained a bone bruise. Clark averaged 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds in her second WNBA season. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Italian designer Giorgio Armani died yesterday at the age of 91. His fashion house said he died at home peacefully, surrounded by his loved ones. More information at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high into the mid-60s. Breezy west winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 40. And then for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low around 47. Saturday, sunshine, high of 67 degrees. Sunday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high around 68. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 59.
Lowe's knows you've got a job to do, and we help get it done. With the MyLowe's Pro Rewards program, eligible members save more with volume discounts on qualifying orders or a quote of $2,000 or more. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer can't be combined with any other discount, contract, and or special pricing. Exclusions, more terms, and restrictions apply. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I think I touched a nerve this morning. I've got a ton of text messages from people who are like, they're not pleased with with what Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to do in taking the moment. With us in studio is our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast that had to make her way around traffic in Chicago. You made it here.
I did.
She's here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Let's get Congresswoman Kelly on because she's on hold. I don't want her. She's got a busy morning, and I thank her for being with us. Good morning, Congresswoman. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Good. We know you are busy because you've been campaigning, but you also have been doing the thing that we elected you to do, and that's to go to Washington and stand in the doggone doorway and say, "Not on my watch." And man, oh man, have you really? I mean, you guys are back in session now, and I know that this situation, you being from Chicago. And a representative of a district that's partly Chicago, this National Guard situation and ICE coming to Chicago has definitely got you a little PO'd, as I would say. So let's talk. There's certain words that we can say, but out of respect to our guests, I don't say them, even though we're allowed. But I know you've been a little fussy about this ICE in Chicago and National Guard situation. So share with our listeners kind of where you stand and what your observations and conversations have been in this space.
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's start with the National Guard. He's spending $1 million a day in Washington, D.C. Do you know what Mayor Bowser could do at $1 million a day? She's not even asking for that much. More police, more trained police, more mental health counselors, more social workers, more violence intervention programs. There's a lot of things a city could do with that much money, or not even asking for that much money. And really, we went in on Tuesday and came back yesterday, very short, not sure what we did, but they said the National Guard were in places that they really weren't. They were cleaning up more than stopping crime. And as far as coming to Chicago, I mean, it's the same crap, frankly. He doesn't really care about Chicago. He doesn't care about the crime in Chicago. He's all about fear and division and playing on that. And he doesn't like Chicago. And I think it's from President Obama days to when he campaigned and Chicagoans did not let him in the city, to give his speech. And he's a vengeful man. So, that's what all of this is a part of. And the same thing, with ICE. It's just absolutely ridiculous, a waste of money. Let's do something that will further reduce crime. Crime is going down, but yes, there's still crime. But let's do what will be more foundational, more permanent, not this temporary show.
It's interesting that you said that about the money. Earlier earlier this week, I said that $1 million that's being spent, and let's try to overlay what it would be like in Chicago, because in D.C. it's a smaller geographical area, and all the other things that we could build a matrix on to say, to try to create a number for what it would look like in Chicago. So I just very quickly said maybe 2.5 times larger, and then by population, the same thing. So that's $2.5 to $3 million. Mayor Johnson just said it, and my colleague Karen Byrne, who's in studio with me, was just saying earlier from one of Mayor Johnson's press conferences, just send us the money. Don't send the troops, and we'll get it done on our own. Because Chicago is much bigger than D.C. in population and geographical size. So how many more troops are going to be sent and how much more money is going to be wasted when, in fact, local authorities here in Chicago, Boston, Philly, New York, whatever city, blue or red, doesn't need troops there. They need the money to help with crime prevention and crime resolution. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you raised a good point, but another thing that you said, is really insulting. Coming from a state that is a donor state, we pay more taxes, like California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and you raise red states. They're sending troops to Washington, D.C., and it's because of states like Illinois, they have the money they have, and it's so insulting. And you look at crime, some of the top states are Missouri, Tennessee, red states.
Yes.
Red states that are sending their troops to Washington, D.C. It's just so hypocritical. But you're right, more money would have to be spent because Chicago is bigger, and the mayor and the governor, anybody that represents the Chicagoland area, will tell you that if we have the resources, we can do more, and cities are doing more. That's why crime is going down. But yes, we acknowledge, one murder is one murder too many. But give us the money. We know our cities and municipalities better than he does. And the troops aren't even trained to do this kind of stuff.
Not at all. And it's so, right, retribution, all these other things that are going on. And one of them is a distraction. I'm sorry, and largely because of the distraction of the Epstein files. And I know that now that you're back and we've had this week of women now that were girls that were part of this tragedy speaking out. And I just want to get your take on some of the things that you've observed and that you've heard in these past couple of days.
Sure. Well, it was a very, very large press conference that happened right outside of the Capitol. And the women are insulted. What did he say? It was a farce or
a hoax.
Not true. A joke, words that he's using. These are their lives. And they're still going through the trauma of what they went through. And then, seeing that his people went and interviewed Maxwell, and then she goes to a minimum security prison. Like, what's that all about? But yeah, all of this is just a distraction. But my colleagues, they're not. They're looking through and working through whatever he's trying to do because no one has gone away. The petitions are being signed. I don't know what Speaker Johnson's going to do. He can't keep releasing us, from D.C. We're going to have to pass a budget. Else the government's going to shut down, and that's going to be all on them since we're Republican in the House, Republican in the Senate, and the president is a Republican. So I don't know how long he can just ignore, what both sides are calling for. But he's a puppet. He's one of Trump's puppets. So
that is true. A puppet being puppeted by another puppet. I'm not a comedian, Madam Congresswoman, but I do get a good one in every now and again. So the spectacle of a person that is heading the organization that takes care of our health and makes sure that we are healthy.
Oh, my God.
Listen, there's a couple things I'm going to say that I can't say on the air, but I'll give an allusion to it. Senator Warren put her foot in his tail end, as did others. So did Senator Warnock. Made it clear that not only does he not know what he's doing, but he is a fraud and a charlatan and is dangerous to the health of the United States of America. I'd love to get your take in these last couple of minutes that we have together.
He came to my committee, Energy and Commerce. I'm on the healthcare subcommittee. And every issue we raised, he said, oh, that's not true. Oh, you're not telling the truth. He never answered a question. He's not very clear and detailed. It's hard to understand him. But no, even the Republicans finally spoke up. And I know that the Republican docs, the ones that sent him over, got him over the finish line to be in the position he's in. I know they're rethinking, what they did. And is this ridiculous? They did it from the beginning. But as someone said, we're just looking for some spines, and maybe not even a spine, a vertebrae. Please, we can't keep going along with, Trump and what he's doing. And they're a part of it. They're responsible for some of this, too, because they're going along with the program. And that guy is ridiculous. I would want to move my kids out of Florida and myself since they're, no vaccines there. No one needs anything. I mean, really?
Where did the
Surgeon General
Ladapo get his medical license because, I mean, this is the thing, and you probably saw Senator Sanders in his takedown as well. I mean, it was epic. Another kick in the tail of RFK Jr. He made it clear that he essentially said everybody else in the medical community, in the social services community, everybody is wrong except for you. And you don't even have a medical degree. I mean, it was an epic takedown. And that's what we want to continue to see from all of you guys who are elected officials. I know I've said this to you before. I say it to you as a voter, as a citizen, as a person that cares. We want you all to succeed, but we know you don't have the numbers right now. We're not stupid. Folks who are paying attention to this know that you guys don't have the numbers. But I applaud you for fighting and speaking up and doing your best to hold them accountable, meaning the GOP and MAGA, because it's in their lap right now. It's not in y'all's lap.
That's right.
Anybody that's paying attention should know that. And so I'm encouraging people as best I can, Congresswoman, to get behind you, to help you guys be as successful as you can. No infighting, none of this colleague stuff. Just keep pounding, because that's what's going to bring more people back to the fight, meaning everyday folks out here that are regular voters and regular citizens. I promise you that's what people are asking for.
Yeah. And I just want to say, yes, Democrats, we go from the most liberal progressive to blue dogs, but we all know the bottom line is we got to win. That's how we're going to make the change. We have got to win. And once we win, we can't even go back to the status quo. We have to do everything we can to make things better when it comes to health care, the cost of living, corruption in politics. So I thank you for acknowledging we don't have the numbers, but that doesn't mean that we can't fight back, push back, show up, stand up, all that stuff, speak up. And we're going to do it.
Absolutely. Congresswoman.
So we are doing it.
Yeah, you are. No, you are doing it, and you're going to continue to do it. And I'm going to do my part to amplify what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Congresswoman
you guys
Robin
have a
Kelly,
great day.
we will. You do the same. Stay safe, and we'll be here for you. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a quick break, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 here in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and, 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
There is no emergency that warrants these deployments of federal troops, our military in our cities. This is a misuse of our military.
That's Amy McGrath, national security analyst, former U.S. Marine Corps combat veteran, and 2020 Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Kentucky. She was speaking to WCPT's Richard Chu about President Donald Trump's threat to send troops to democratically run cities like Chicago.
We do not need to be having our United States soldiers, our United States military patrolling our streets like we're some martial law police state in a third world country. It's just not what Americans want. It's not in our history. It's never been in our history. We actually fought a war against tyrants that wanted to use soldiers on our land. It's not who we are.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
I ain't backing down. Frankly, I'm a little tired of some of my, elected Democratic colleagues for not standing up. But I really do want to commend those profiles in courage. We've seen Governor Pritzker organize a group of governors to resist this fascistic nonsense. We've seen the mayor of the city of Chicago, who has never flinched from standing up. We got Gavin Newsom in California standing up these days a bit. We need to applaud that. We need to stand up. We need to be on the right. And if it means a short trip to jail, so be it. For me, I've been there before. I don't mind.
Welcome to the show, Mayor Brandon Johnson. I wanted to give you a couple of kudos as we bring you on this morning. That, in case you didn't know, Mayor Johnson, is Larry Krasner, who is the Philadelphia District Attorney, giving you some props for not flinching and standing up. And if there's something that I would say right now that I would say, what is it when I think of Mayor Johnson, and my colleague Karen Byrne, who's in studio with us, has said the same thing. What is it that I think of when I think of Mayor Johnson right now? Is our mayor may not have it right on a number of things, and people have got complaints about this and worries about that. But Mayor Brandon Johnson of the city of Chicago has not flinched. You have stood in the void. I don't care what anybody has to say about anything else that maybe you haven't done to their liking. But when it comes to somebody that I want to roll with, when it comes to fighting and defending our city, you have not flinched. And D.A. Krasner made it plain. So welcome to the show, Mayor Johnson.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me again. It's been a while, and I mean that's who we are as a city. We stand up in the face of adversity, and we stand on our values, and of course, we stand on business, and that's the luxury and the benefit and the humbling part about being mayor of the greatest city in the world.
Yep, and you've been doing a great job. Lots of things that you've had to fight with and deal with. A lot of the press conferences. So kudos to you again for kind of grabbing the questions and answering them with the aplomb and the strength that you do. Answer the questions and navigate through this craziness right now. So let's cut to the chase in terms of the National Guard and where we are. I mean, when we got to the studio this morning, our board engineer Henry asked me, he said, Richard, so I mean, I've seen pictures, are they here yet? What's going on? And I'm sure lots of people are wanting to hear what kind of where we are. What's the temperature right now in terms of troops actually being here as part of this directive from Donald Trump?
Well, we've received reporting and confirmation that there are federal ICE agents, Border Patrol, immigration agents that have stationed or have parked in, the northern suburbs of Chicago. We do not have any confirmation or word that the National Guard or any militarized forces have arrived. The anticipation is that federal ICE agents and Border Patrol will make their way into Chicago as early as tomorrow. But again, this is just based upon intel that we've received from some of our allies in the northern suburbs where these federal agents have stationed.
So one of the things that obviously has been a big part of the news in the legitimacy of this happening is if Donald Trump has the authority to do it. And some people have said on various shows that the mayor and the governor should just essentially acquiesce and allow this to happen because it's going to drive crime rates down and it's going to protect people. And I've asked the question from the very beginning of this, Mayor Johnson. Okay, so what neighborhoods? Where? How are we going to logistically have troops on Michigan Avenue or Lakeshore Drive or State Street or Milwaukee Avenue or any of the cities in Chicago at this time of year, particularly when folks are getting their kids back to school, folks are coming back from summer vacation, so commuting into the city from wherever you're coming from, suburbs, out of state, will be hell if you've got to then navigate through a checkpoint of tanks or armed vehicles to get your kids to school. So just logistically, yet alone not needing it because of how well the numbers have come down, which we'll get back to in a second. But that's got to be part of what's going through your mind. And I'm sure the governor and all the other state officials as you navigate through this process.
Yeah, I mean, this is not who we are as a country. In fact, we have moved away from this type of militarized occupation of cities. I mean, it was just on September 2nd was the anniversary of the Little Rock Nine, just this week, where, the governor at that time used the National Guard to prevent 9 Black children from entering into a school. I mean, this president and the Republican Party have made it very clear that, it's the civil rights movement that, brought us to, a greater place of equity and justice. There's more work to be done, certainly, but there's obviously a clear effort to return back to a very dark age in our nation's history. And we'll take it one step further. I mean, many of the policies that are being moved by the Republican Party and Trump in this moment, it's clear that they have not accepted the results of the Civil War either. Mm-hmm. And, it's it's not hyperbolic. I mean, they're doing it. They're saying it out loud. Using the Department of Justice as, his own legal arm to go after his political opposition. And so there's no American city that I am aware of that has ever asked for what you just described, the militarized occupation of our cities. This is not the direction in which, our country wants to go, but we're being force-fed, by lies and deception. And the ultimate desire is to divide and conquer communities so that we could, that we would turn on one another and work to devour one another for the gain of the ultra rich, right? Because that's who he's ultimately accountable to. So no, this is not what residents of our city want. It's unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it has demonstrated over and over again to be ineffective.
We've talked about the violent crime numbers dropping in not just Chicago, but many other big cities in America. And the conversation has been out there that, the ire of Donald Trump has been focused on these cities, on our cities, American cities that have black or brown or women running them, if you will. You here, Mayor Brandon Scott, Mayor Karen Bass, Mayor Wu in Boston, Mayor Bowser in D.C., the list goes on. And the irony, obviously, is, and you know the numbers because you've navigated them, those numbers of violent crime are going down. And interestingly enough, the opposite side or the other side of that sort of scale is as that's going down, the aspiration and the positivity about being in these big cities is increasing. And so we're seeing that as these programs that you're implementing, that you've been so clear about since the beginning of your term, that this is what will work or you strongly believe will work. And with the cooperation of business and social groups, that improving the lives with programs will work given time. And as we see violent crime or crime in general go down, that it is a reflection of those programs. It's working, Mayor Johnson. How are you navigating getting that across to people's minds that these programs are working, but they do take a little bit of time? I'm speaking for you now.
Well, community safety is my top priority. It's been that from the moment that I decided to run for office, and it certainly has been that as mayor of Chicago. My theory was pretty straightforward, that policing alone is not going to get us to a safe and affordable big city. Now, policing plays an incredible role in getting us there. And my superintendent has done an exceptional job, Superintendent Larry Snelling, of implementing and instituting constitutional policing and community policing system-wide. And, the hardworking women and men of our police department deserve an awful lot of credit for how we have approached driving violence down in the city of Chicago. But as I've said, we've asked too much of law enforcement. And so, but the first thing that we knew we had to do was to revamp. We needed to promote 200 more detectives, which I promised to do. We've done it, and revamp our detectives bureau. And as a result of the detectives bureau working with counterintelligence, working with, patrol, all of these systems talking to one another, it has placed us in a position where we now have a 74, almost 75% clearance rate, which means we're actually solving violent crime in Chicago. Because one of the things that I've heard repeatedly is that it's one thing to lose a loved one to violence. It's another thing to be impacted by violence. It's an insult. It's insulting when that perpetrator is still roaming the streets of Chicago. And so by the revamping of our detectives bureau and the cross communication that's taken place, solving crime allows us to use it as a deterrent. But the other component of it is pretty straightforward: investing in our young people. Over 31,000 young people receive summer jobs. Investing in mental health clinics. We've reopened 3 of them. That's another campaign promise that we fulfilled. We've expanded mental and behavioral health care services all over the city of Chicago. So when someone is having a mental health crisis, a behavioral health interventionist shows up to that crisis. And we're also building affordable homes, and because it's important that we stabilize our community. So in other words, it's policing and, youth employment. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and building more affordable homes. And the last thing that I'll say, Richard, is that, as progressives, we have ceded, community safety into the hands of the Republicans. And I'm saying that as Democrats and particularly as progressives, we don't have to do that. In 1974, there were almost 1,000 homicides in Chicago. In 1995, it was over 800, closer to 900. In 2016, same thing, well over 800 homicides. 2021, over 800 homicides. And now we just had the fewest amount of homicides in a summer since 1965. So, look, there's a lot of work for us to do still. And one homicide and one shooting is one too many. But we are moving aggressively with our vision for Chicago. And I've always said that it's not that it takes time, it takes commitment. And that's what we have demonstrated so far since I've been in office.
You're so right about that. With commitment, with commitment, you can shave off a lot of time. If you've got committed forces and programs that are designed to help across the board, then it can take less time. And obviously without the distractions of people that don't want to see you succeed or see the city succeed. I've said that unapologetically, Mayor Johnson. So anybody listening in the country, I want our Democratic elected officials to succeed. We know, and if folks are paying attention, they should know that it isn't easy. But like Congresswoman Robin Kelly said just a moment before you were on, we are still fighting, and we need to stay in the fight. And on a federal level, she says it. We know it. They don't have the numbers, but they still fight. You here in the city of Chicago, as so many other mayors in big cities have recognized, that if we fight, if we stay focused on the things that we believe in, which is the city that you are the CEO of, can succeed, then everybody benefits, whether it be the folks who live here or the folks that come and visit. So I appreciate you saying it that way. Listen, y'all, violent crime dropped to levels not seen in a decade in Chicago this first half of 2025. We all should be talking about that, and we should be talking about that in other big cities, because we hear all the time, Mayor Johnson, well, the crime in those big cities, I don't want to go. But at the same time, we're seeing those numbers go down. Why? Because of creative programs and commitments like you've made. And I love what's happening now. Let's talk about this for a second. The missing middle housing push on the South Side. A lot of people don't know about this. So I'll give you the baton to talk about the success of this development program.
Yeah, thank you for that. So my goal and my vision is to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. I've made this case repeatedly. If you can have a safe community, but if people can't afford to live there, then that it undermines that effort. And same thing, you can afford to live in a city, but if you can't feel safe, that doesn't help us either. And so the Missing Middle program is my strategy to repopulate the city of Chicago, and particularly on the west and south sides. And so a little bit over a year ago, we put forth a $1.25 billion investment bond for housing and economic development, to grow businesses, but to grow our housing stock. Right now, we're on pace to build, Richard, about 10,000 affordable units by the end of my first term, but we need 100,000, right? And we're using various strategies to get us closer to that ultimate goal, to keep the city of Chicago, or to move it towards more affordability for working people. And what the Missing Middle program does is it identifies areas in the city where there are large swaths of land that the city can turn over to developers for $1, and we can build owner-occupied units. So in other words, you have individuals who develop on vacant land that the city of Chicago owns, and we turn it over to them, and you create living spaces where individuals live in a unit and they rent their other units. And this is anywhere from 2 flats to up to 6 units, I believe. It could be a little bit higher. But the goal ultimately is to not just repopulate the west and south sides of Chicago, but to create generational wealth. I mean, everybody knows that the American dream is very much attached to home ownership. And this Missing Middle program allows for that owner-occupied space that is really, quite frankly, it's a strong tradition in Chicago. It's how my family from the South established, community on 79th and Ashland. My dad and his sisters and my grandmother lived in multiple units that they owned and rented, and it's how we were able to, sustain, ourselves. And so this is a program that we're very proud of. We've introduced it in North Lawndale and Inglewood. We're now expanding it to more neighborhoods on the south side of Chicago. And the developers are women and people of color. We are real intentional about the first set of developers we had. Of the 6, 5 of them were Black, 3 were women. Same here, giving people opportunity to build in our city, to create more units, and to also provide long-term sustainability for these neighborhoods. And that's the Missing Middle program. So really excited about it. It's a program that I believe is going to help us not just repopulate the city of Chicago, but it's going to ensure that we have, again, generational wealth that we can create for the long term.
Well, it's such a cool program. And my colleague and good friend Karen Byrne, who's with me in studio this morning, is a realtor by trade. She lives in Oak Park in the near western suburbs, but she's nodding her head because as a realtor, she understands that importance and just wanted to give you a thumbs up and thanks for developing that program.
Mayor Johnson, thank you so much. That is one of the biggest needs right now that I see with so many people that I work with is affordable housing, because of course the number one obstacle to home ownership or student loan debts, and I can't tell you how many clients I take on that is the number one obstacle for them to be able to achieve the dream of home ownership. And so they're forced to kind of go with rentals that are not ideal, and there too just completely out of reach as far as monthly costs. So that is huge. That program is absolutely huge.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Johnson, for that. And
thank you for the compliment. Look, that was the situation that my wife and I were in. Still to this day, we are on pace to pay our house off faster than our student loans. Mm-hmm. and that's between the two of us. We were very motivated to get degrees, and we have several of them. It's a challenge that many families have experienced between childcare. I would imagine you hear that one as well.
Absolutely.
Between childcare and student debt, it becomes a real obstacle for home ownership. And, there's a study that the Urban League released a couple of months ago that the cumulative wealth for Black families in Chicago is $0. $0, right? So you have families on average waking up every day and they're barely breaking even. And, you're describing exactly what a lot of families are enduring. Not enough quite to get by, and barely enough to make the ends meet by the end of the week or the month. And that's not sustainable. And we're working to course correct that here in Chicago.
And that's one of it's a template in many ways. This is the thing that I stopped and said, okay, let's look at this in terms of missing middle housing. And then on a larger scale for the country, the program that you and your administration are putting in place is a program that is, in my eyes, in my research, one that can be a template for the rest of the country, particularly in big cities. Are you seeing, or have you? And I know that you're deeply connected with other mayors and frankly other governors, that this is something that can be more of a national program for other cities.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier some of my colleagues, and we have regular check-ins. I talked to Mayor Brandon Scott. I just spoke with Mayor Michelle Wu just a couple of days ago. She's in the midst of an election cycle right now, and Randall Woodfin in Birmingham, Barbara Lee in Oakland, Andre Dickens in Atlanta, and there are creative things that Andre is doing in Atlanta to address the housing need are incredible. In fact, we were talking about a month ago, as I was explaining to him, not just the missing middle, but green social housing as well, and as well as addressing the homelessness crises. How do we create, non-congregant spaces to give and provide dignity to those families who are in transition to eventually having their own home? How do we ensure that transition provides them with some dignity? And Richard, we put $40 million towards our homelessness apparatus. It's the largest investment in the history of Chicago to address homelessness. There were, centers that were housing the unhoused that did not have air conditioning, or they didn't have a cafeteria for families to work in. The women had to walk through the male's corridor to be able to get to a bathroom or to get to another part of the facility. We did not have ADA accessibility. I mean, and so this is, with community safety, this is up there as a top priority, is to ensure that we create more housing. We use practices from around the country. We share our ideas. But I can tell you, the city of Chicago is leading the way. You mentioned this earlier, during our conversation about, the complaints that people have about, Mayor Johnson. That's just how we treat mayors, right? That's not unique to me. The beauty about being mayor of Chicago now, you get a really front row seat of just, in other words, you could walk into a room and get booed and cheered at the same time.
As
right?
you have had.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the people who boo you are like, could you get over here and take a picture with me right away? Because they gotta go. So it comes with the territory. But what it says to me, though, is that we have strong and high expectations for our elected leadership. I'm not mad at that, Richard. It doesn't intimidate me at all. People know that I come from a large family, and I'm not saying that this was healthy, but the things that my grandmother used to say to me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I believe she loves me for the most part, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's not something that someone's going to say or have a critique that I haven't heard. Or better yet, as a public school teacher, you think about the teachers you know. We are the most reflective human beings on the planet. If something doesn't go right, we automatically assume it was something that we did, right? And so, I take that approach into leadership, and that's why we've worked so hard and creatively to build more affordable homes, to address community safety, because people are saying, Johnson, we need you to do something about it. And what I'm saying is that we are, and we're doing it together.
One of the things, I didn't want to digress, but it was really tempting when you started talking about grandma and grandmamas, particularly in the African-American community. We know that there's a certain temperament and way of being that has built us for the types of leadership that you've exhibited. And that's to have some thick skin and to understand that you're going to catch some hell every now and again and just be ready for it. And that's one of the things that I keep applauding you and other mayors, black mayors and women mayors and mayors of color for doing, because it is different, but you know that. So going into the fight, you're prepared to deal with the boos and the adulation. And I just think it has to be, we have to keep repeating it. A little bit of a pivot. I'm going to have some fun with you about something that you did that I thought was really kind of cool, because I'm the guy that wants to run up to an ICE agent and snatch that mask off his or her face. I'm not going to be throwing any sandwiches at anybody, but the executive order, talk about using an executive order for good, of banning law enforcement from wearing masks in Chicago. And that to me was leadership. That was taking something that a lot of people are concerned about and fearful of, that someone rolling up on you may not necessarily be legitimate law enforcement. So thank you for that, because that was taking an issue that a lot of people are concerned about and using your power and, frankly, responsibility to do something about it.
Yeah, the executive order was really centered around, preparing our residents for anything and everything. And there was a ruling in California, the federal courts ruled that what President Trump did in Los Angeles was illegal. And essentially, it affirmed my executive order. I mean, it literally came out the day after or 2 days later. And so we know that we're on the right track as it relates to protecting residents. But it was also about giving clear direction to our local law enforcement. Again, they've done an exceptional job at working to rebuild the trust within our communities. And we said that, look, we need to make sure that our officers have a real distinguishable presentation in uniforms, badges, not covering their faces, and making that an expectation for any law enforcement that comes. This, again, was about offering up, clear direction for our residents to know their rights. And again, it's one of those elements where, look, this stuff is unprecedented in that regard. Never did we ever think, I guess, that we would have these type of egregious constitutional overreaches. And I thought it was important that I sent a strong signal to the people of Chicago that with my executive authority, I'm going to do everything in my power to protect the residents of Chicago.
Yeah, and that was such a great move on your part, and using what was happening on this conversation in other communities to say, you know what, I'm on the right footing here. I'm on solid footing, frankly, to do that. And people were asking for it, and you delivered in that space. I know you're tight on time. I know that we only have a couple more minutes left. But I do want to, it's not so much of a pivot, but just to kind of talk about some things that are uber local, but also part of the national conversation. Back to school. We're back in school now in Chicago, the surrounding communities, and frankly, through most of the country, both on a grade school, high school level, as well as in most colleges. So there's more people in the city now. There's more folks doing the thing that they do. Has back to school been a success? And how do you feel about Chicago's back to school?
Excuse me. Yes, we're off to a really good start, Richard. I'm actually very proud of, how our, communities have embraced this school year. We're going into this school year with 16 more sustainable community schools, something that we secured in the teacher's contract. And these are community-driven schools that really we're turning away from school privatization and closures and giving more community control to the neighborhood so that they can design schools that uniquely fit what that community it has endured and what it needs. We have class sizes that are smaller that we secured, protecting the LGBTQ plus community, protecting our immigrant community, protecting Black history, protecting veteran educators. We're on pace to have more social workers and counselors in our schools. So there's reason to be optimistic. Now we do know we still have funding challenges. The state of Illinois and their calculation have made a commitment to fund all of our schools equitably by 2027. So we're just a little bit over a year out from that state law having to be fulfilled. And right now, the $1.6 billion that the people of Chicago deserve and are owed, that's something that we have to collectively build towards. I know there's commitment in Springfield to fund our schools equitably, but we need to see action, quite frankly. I'm doing everything in my power to support our schools. And, the last thing that I'll say is, as we move towards an elected representative school board, a fully elected school board, we're going to have to work hard to disentangle the school district's reliance upon certain elements that the city of Chicago offers. But really the struggle together is going to be making sure that Springfield equitably funds school districts around this state. And then finally, we as Democrats have to be unapologetic about our fight and protection of working people. The ultra rich in this state do not pay their fair share in taxes. Corporations have incredible loopholes that allow them to obfuscate their responsibility. And if we're going to build safe and affordable communities, not just across Chicago, but across the state, we're going to have to fund our communities. The safest communities in America all have one thing in common. They invest in their people. And that's what we have to do with our public education system here in Chicago and, quite frankly, around the state.
Yeah, and that's been probably your next toughest, or certainly right there along with safety, is making sure that education is properly funded. Transportation obviously is also part of that conversation. I know that's on your whiteboard of things that you're trying to navigate through. But yeah, I wanted to just get an idea from you or thought from you in terms of the back to school successes and how the programs that you've been working on over the past few months have played themselves out. Mayor Johnson, let's talk about this a little bit. We've ended summer as part of this back to school conversation. Summer is a couple weeks away from the calendar saying summer's over, but so many of us measure it by back to school and back to work and from summer vacation. Tourism was strong this summer, and events were well managed and navigated. And I just want you to share with our listeners your take on that and sort of your forward thinking when it comes to Chicago being a big city that welcomes so many people and welcomes so many events.
Yeah, so we do this really well. One thing about Chicago, I mean, we know how to throw a party, right? And it's one of those things where you're excited about it, but as mayor, you're like, okay, y'all go home now. It's 9:00. Okay, it's like if I'm in the house, everybody else is in the house. Maybe that's a good executive order. Once the mayor's home, everybody else has to go home too.
Yeah,
We do a great job in tourism. We saw the numbers coming out of last year and going into this year. We're talking about $20 billion plus, infused throughout the entire region. Voted the best big city in America by Condé Nast. It's the number one locator for corporations. Our region, 13 years in a row. And one of the other indicators, you probably saw this at O'Hare Airport. We not only set, but we broke records. We are real close to becoming the number one airport in the country again. And, look, as mayor, I guess this is just kind of a Chicago thing. You want things to go well, but we're really competitive here. And so Andre Dickens knows that, Atlanta has gotten away for several years of being number one in that regard. And I said, I'm coming for you. And I told him that a couple of years ago. And so now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who have come through our airports, and particularly O'Hare. And our hotel occupancy rates are up. I mean, we're seeing a great deal of infusion into our economy because people are coming to hang out in Chicago. In fact, last year, for the first time in over a decade, we had population growth. Right? And this was not related to migrants. People will say that, well, that's because you have more migrants here. No, we're talking about individuals who are not migrants, who have been a part of our city's infrastructure now. And to the point that you made earlier about our public transportation system, working with the General Assembly to make sure that that's properly funded as well. But our ridership is up 12%, 300 million plus riders between buses and trains. Look, there's a lot of work to do. Don't get me wrong. And things are not perfect yet. But things are working towards perfection, and that's our goal. And people want to come and hang out in Chicago. Why not? I mean, our skyline, architecture, our museums, our theater scene.
Yeah.
I can't encourage folks enough. Go out and see the plays right now. I mean, you have Michael Jackson, you got Barack Obama musical. I mean, you have some smaller theaters around the city, and people are coming to hang out. And then the last thing, they're coming to eat too. I mean, we have the best food on the planet. I know people compare us to New Orleans, but Chicago is so dope when it comes to our palate. We're the only city where another culture will make another culture's food and open up a restaurant, right? And so that's the fusion that we have in Chicago, and people want to come and see our lakefront, our beaches, and they want to experience the beauty of our city. We have a winning baseball team in Chicago, and people don't know this. Wrigley Field, I believe, is the second top tourist attraction in the state of Illinois, only second to the museum campus.
That's
so.
Yeah, Chicago is dope, y'all. I mean, I send various clips to different people about Chicago, and I send some of the members of your staff some things. When I see something that's really cool, I will say, make sure Mayor Johnson gets his eyes on this, because it's someone from outside of the city of Chicago that is speaking volumes about the strength of the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. So, our hats are off to you and to the governor and to all the other officials that are elected. Because, again, my whole point, Mayor Johnson, is this, and I say this unapologetically: we want our elected officials to succeed. Mm-hmm. Because when you succeed with the programs that are not designed to hurt anybody, or the governor's programs, or President Preckwinkle, and the list goes on, or even our federal officials succeed at the programs and the ideas for this country, we all are better off. By contrast to the folks on the other side of this conversation that want to take away from people. And so that, to me, is important. And it has to be, we as progressive liberal Democrats have to speak to that all the time. Mm-hmm. Our ideas are better. Let's push our leaders to do a better job. Let's kind of be coaches to you to help you do a better job, rather than just whining and complaining all the time about what ain't right.
Well, look, well said. I appreciate that. I will say, our federal delegation, man, they are incredible. Excuse me. Whether it's, Senator Duckworth and Senator Durbin, they've done an incredible job. Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, Chakowski, Raja, and of course, Robin Kelly, heard a little bit from her. And Jonathan Jackson. I mean, the list just goes on. We have a strong delegation. And you mentioned, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, Governor Pritzker, our Attorney General, Raul. We're all on the same page in this regard. And again, I'm proud to stand firm and stand up for the people of Chicago and to really be an example for the rest of the world. I mean, this is a city that, we can't say yes, we can if we don't say keep hope alive, right?
That's right.
And, this is the city that birthed, those powerful movements and the writings of Ida B. Wells and, of course, the organizing of the late, great Karen Lewis, the labor movement, and the fact that I always remind people of this too, Richard, that when Dr. King came to Chicago, he came here with a very clear vision to make sure that, equal access and justice could prevail for working people. And as much as he experienced hardship in Chicago, he was very clear about one thing. He basically said that if you can do it in Chicago, you can do it anywhere in the world. And that's what I wake up to. That's what I go to bed thinking about. How do we do it right in Chicago? Because I'm confident that when Chicago gets it right, so goes the rest of the country.
Without a doubt. So great on your leadership year to date. What would you say if you were to give yourself a number on a scale of 1 to 10? You knew I was going to come at you with this. So.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But be honest with yourself about that, because that's what people want to hear. We're grade yourself real quickly as we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, look, our job is not done yet. And I think throughout this journey, we turn in different sections of our assignment. Homicides are down over 30%, shooting victims are down 35%, robberies are down, but one, victim is one too many. And, if you could just, have mercy on me as you always do every month. Our assignment is not complete yet. So I don't know if it would be right to give a full grade, on an assignment that we're still working on. What I can say is, though, I feel good about where we are. I do. It's not one of those things where you ever get satisfied. But, I think it would be disingenuous and it would actually be a slap in the face to the hardworking people of this city to say that all hope is lost. And because we haven't, eliminated homicides completely, that somehow, we don't deserve some, recognition. And I will say that the assignment is still ongoing and, come talk to me by the end of this year and perhaps I can give you a number. But in the meantime, this is a group project, you all. I can't do this by myself. And I need the people that listen to you and the people of Chicago to continue to stand firm, send encouraging words to your neighbors. I was just in Archer Heights yesterday talking to neighbors who lost, things because of the flooding, and we're addressing that issue as well. What was so impressive in the 14th Ward is that those neighbors came together with one another. They helped each other out. They got things out of the basement so that our street and sanitation workers can come and clear it out. And we are now doing full assessment so that we can get the resources so that they can be on their way to recovery. But the theme that I experienced on that block, or those two blocks, was that they looked out for one another. And that's who we are as Chicagoans. Let's not point fingers at one another. Let's turn towards one another to help us build the safest, most affordable big city in America. And we're well on our way to accomplishing that.
Mayor Brandon Johnson, thank you for being with us. Our listeners all over the country, here in Chicago particularly, appreciate what you're doing. Stay strong. You know that we've got your back here. We're going to keep pushing you along, and just stay in the fight. We know that it's tough, but we know that you're built for it. So thank you again for being with us this morning.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Thanks again.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right, guys, what can I tell you? Mayor Brandon Johnson, knowing the reality of the role that he's in, and those that oppose him and oppose his administration, go find something to do to find a way to move things better. But for those who support him and what other leaders of our ilk are trying to do, Karen, get behind them and push them forward and give them the encouragement to do a better job. We don't have a lot of time. We got to wrap up. Thanks for Karen to being with us this morning. Thanks for Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Thanks for Mayor Brandon Johnson. But as I say always, guys, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.
why my dad founded Chicago Community Acupuncture.
My dad did too.
That's because we're sisters.
Yeah, but it's true.
You know, acupuncture has helped billions of people, but some people are still afraid of it.
Why?
They're afraid it'll hurt, or that it won't do anything to help them.
That's silly. We get acupuncture all the time, and it's like less than a mosquito bite. And everyone knows that acupuncture can help a bunch of different problems.
Not everyone knows that.
Someone should tell them.
I think you just did.
So if you'd like to experience top quality